Hi, student. Good morning. Today we are going to discuss topic number 16. The title is reproduction. And you know very well that reproduction, is the process in which new organisms are formed from the old organisms. And what is the reason of this process? The reason is simple: to continue the generation. So here we are going to discuss the different type of reproduction, especially we are going to discuss the reproduction in plant and reproduction in animals. So we will now come to the first slide. See, in the first slide, you can see the definition. Reproduction is a process that makes more of the same kinds of an organism. There are two types of reproduction, that asexual and sexual reproduction. Now, what is the difference between asexual and sexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction, uh, it is the process resulting in the production of genetically identical offsprings from one parent, or you could say the formation of a new organism without involvement of the gametes or fertilization. This is asexual. Okay, but sexual means there, of course, there are two parents, and secondly, the gametes are involved. And here you can see bacteria reproduce asexually. You can see here the bacteria, that is the unicellular organism. Firstly, is its genetic material is divided, and secondly, the cell membrane divided or cytoplasm divided. So in this way, one bacteria makes its own copy. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of asexual production? See, asexual production, is a quick process because one organism involved and it's making its own copy. Only one parent is involved or needed, no gametes formation, all good characteristics on no dispersal, uh, or tuber formations grown in the same favorable environment as parent. Store large amount of food, that is a rapid growth. Means these are the advantages of asexual reproduction, that with the help of asexual reproduction we can make the large amount of food. Why? Because one cell divides into two to make four, or four, eight, and then 16. So there is a series of uh, division of cell, which is a growth process. So we make, like, the mass of cell. Now what are the disadvantages? So the disadvantage is that little variation is there, means to adapt the environment is unlikely. Offsprings inherit bad characteristics, for example, resistance from the disease, lack of dispersal, competition, nutrients, water, and oxygen. Light means in asexual reproduction, the disadvantage is that there is a little variation. Means, for example, like, if the parent cell have some disorder, so the same disorder is going to be transferred into the offspring, and the offspring cannot compete with the environment. Now, what are the example of asexual reproduction? See here, the bacteria, as we already have discussed, that in bacteria, firstly, the genetic material is divided, and secondly, the cytoplasm is divided. And secondly, second example is the asexual reproduction in fungi. In fungus, you know very well that there is a sporangium, as you can see in the diagram, which produces spores, and these spores, disperse in different directions. So wherever, like, they get the favorable place, then they are going to germinate. Then they are going to make a new fungus. Now it is also seen, in potato. You can see in potato the tuber is formed, and this tuber, is separated from the potato roots. Then it makes the another, potato. So this is also asexual reproduction. Now come to the sexual reproduction. As we know that in sexual reproduction, two parents are required, and secondly, like, they make the gametes, and there is a formation of gametes. Okay, and this when the once, like, the gametes are formed, then they are fused together. This process we call as fertilization, and after fusion of the gametes, zygote is made. Now you can see here in cell, in male or the female, both are, both cell, are diploid cell which are having this 46 number of chromosome. So in the result of meiosis, this diploid cell make haploid cell that has a half number of chromosome. In male, you can see sperm is made which has 23 chromosome, and in female, egg cell is made which is having 23 chromosome. When 23 and 23 chromosome or two haploid cells fuse together, they make again one diploid cell, and this process is known as fertilization. So see, 46 chromosome again, is regained. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of sexual reproduction? In sexual reproduction, the advantage is that the variation is seen and the new organism are having a different characteristics, and these organisms have more capability to adapt in the environment. But what the disadvantage? The disadvantage is that two parents are needed, okay, and the growth process is very slow. Now, reproduction in the flowering plant, as you can see, like, that the flower, is the most attractive part of the plant, and it's a reproductive part. It has different parts, as you can see here. Number one, petal is there, okay, then sepal is there, then number three, uh, you can see here, uh, which one is that? Number three. Number three, is pedicel is there, and number four, nectaries, number five, stamen, number six, anther, then number seven, filament is there, eight, carpel is there, nine, stigma, style, and then then like, ovary or ovule. Each part, has a specific functions. Now let's just move to the functions. See here, petals, often large and colored to attract the insects, because petals are like, having a nectar or the sweet juice, due to which, the insects move towards the petals. And sepal, protects the flower while in bud, and petals support the flower to make it easily seen by insects. Nectary that produces the nectars, and stamen, the male reproductive part. Anther contains the pollen grains or pollen sac, in which the pollen grains are formed. Pollen grains may, like, they are the male sex cells. And filament, support the anther. Carpel, the female reproductive part that has the stigma, style, and ovary. And stigma, it just receive the pollen grains, and these pollen grains move in the style, but with a specific type of, tube that we call it the pollen tube, and they reach to the female egg that are found in the egg, in the ovary. Now, reproduction in plants, or agent of pollination. Now, what is pollination? Pollination, is the transfer of pollen grains, uh, either from one flower to another flower or in the same flower. So there are two type of pollination: self-pollination, as transfer of the pollen grains from anther to the flower of the stigma, I mean the same flower stigma. And another type, is a cross-pollination, that is also, the transfer of pollen grains from one flower to another flower, or the same kinds. Now, what are the structure adaptations? See here, structure adaptation. See, for example, like, in some plant, the pollen grains are transferred by the wind, so they are called as the wind pollinated flower. And what are the characteristics of the wind pollinated flower? You can see here the anther are large and outside the flower. As you can see, they are hanging down. The stigma is large and outside the flower. The tiny colors, less petals, pollen made in huge quantity. No nectaries are there. This is, these are the characteristics of the wind pollinated flower. And what are the characteristics of the insect pollinated flowers? As you can see in the diagram, that the anther are small and inside the flower, and stigma is small inside the flower, and large colorful petals are there. and has the nectarine. Just because of these characteristics, insects attracts towards the flower. Now here you can see again, there is a characteristic that what are the characteristic in insect pollinated flowers and vein pollinated flowers. So petals, insect pollinated flower, the petals are large and colored, but in vein pollinated flower, the petals, in some flower, the petal is absent or very small. And insect pollinated flower, the nectar is there, nectaries are there, due to which the insects attract. And in wind fallen flower, it is absent or sometime it is very small. And stamen, inside flower, in insect pollen flower, but in wind pollen flower, it is long filament, okay, anther hanging freely outside the flower. And stigma, very small in insect pollen flower, but in wind pollen flower, it is very large. Pollen, very small amount, but in wind pollen flower, it is a large number. And bracts or modified leaves, they are absent in insect pollen flower, but wind pollen flower, some flowers, it is present. Now what are the implication of a species of self-pollination? So implication you see here, high chance of successful pollination and smaller number of pollinate, and high chance of fertilization and seed formation, and very low variation in the offspring, low ability to adapt the environmental change, as you can also see in the diagram. Now, what are the implications to a species of the chorus pollination? There is a low chance of successful pollination, low chance of fertilization, but high chance of variation and high chance of ability to adapt the environmental change. So pollination and fertilization, as you know very well, that firstly the pollination take place in which the pollen grains transferred from anther to the stigma. After that, this anther, has some changes. Okay, and after these changes, it makes the male gametes, and these male gametes, reach to the female gamete in the ovary, and fertilization take place, and due to which that the ovary is to be converted into the fruits. See here, if the pollen grains are of the same species as the flower they land on, they may germinate. Germination is triggered by sugary solution on the stigma, as involve the growth of pollen tube from the pollen grains. The tube contains the male nucleus which is needed to fertilized ovule inside the ovary. The pollen tube grows down the style through the ovary wall and through the micropyle of the ovule. Fertilization is the fusion of male and the female nucleus. Now see, when fertilization has happened, the flower will change in the following ways. See what are the changes take place. Petals die and fall away. Fertilized ovule turns into seed. And the third change, ovary may fill with sugar and turn into fruits. Now, what is germination? Germination, is the sprouting of seed that gives you the baby plant. And now, what are the condition of germination of seed? The first condition, the availability of water or moisture. If water is available, then the seed is going to be germinate. And second thing, the temperature, because temperature, is necessary for the working of enzyme. If prominent temperature or favorable temperature is to be provided, then the seed is going to be germinate. Availability of oxygen, yes. If the if the seed is buried in the soil, it will not gives you the baby plant. So seed is dispersed in such a way that some part of the seed is to be exposed by the air, so it can easily get oxygen, and this oxygen react with the carbohydrate in the seed and makes energy, and this energy sprout the seed. Light intensity is also one of the important factor of germination. as you can see in the diagram, that the water is there. For here, you can see in the diagram, there is a specific pore or a hole in the seed, which we call as a micropyle, by which it absorbs water. And then after that, this seed is swollen in size, and its enzyme activate, and also the specific temperature required that the enzyme energize, and due to which these enzyme convert complex carbohydrate into simple carbohydrate inside the seed, and this simple carbohydrate then react with oxygen and makes energy, and this energy sprout the seed. So these are the factors which affect the germination of seed. Now come to the another topic, that is, you see here the male reproductive system. As you can see in the diagram, that there is a pair of male reproductive organ, that is testes. Okay, testes are responsible to make sperms, and these sperms enters into the sperm duct. Okay, and then passes through the penis. So here you can see we are going to discuss the function of different part of the reproductive system of male. For example, there is a pair of testes produce sperm and testosterone, and scrotum, a sac that keeps the testis cool, and sperm duct links testis to urethra. Prostate gland produces alkaline fluid, that is semen. Semen actually it's a fluid. It contains nutrients, it contains water, it also contains sperms. Then penis, that become firm in certain vagina during the sexual intercourse, and it transfer the sperms. Now come to the female reproductive system. As you can see, in female there is a pair of ovary which are responsible to make egg cells, and this egg cells enters into the oviduct where the fertilization take place. In female, you can see here vagina, which receive the penis, okay, during the ejaculation, and then the sperms or the semen release here, and then the sperms just move from vagina to the cervix, and then it goes to the oviduct where the egg is fertilized if it is available. Now see, ovary contain follicle, produces and stores eggs, produce estrogens. Ovary and actually it perform two jobs. One is it's making the egg cells, and another it also produces estrogens, which is the female reproductive hormones that produces the secondary sexual characteristics in female. Oviduct that carries ovum to uterus, fallopian tubes, the site of fertilization. Now the uterus is there where fetus develops. Cervix, a ring of muscle that separates the vagina from the uterus. And vagina that receives sperm from the erect penis during the intercourse. Now here you can see we are going to just discuss the comparative comparison between the sperms and the egg cells. See, sperms, is very small. Its size is about 45 micrometer, but the egg, is larger, that is 0.2 millimeter. And the structure, if you see the structure of sperm, the head region is there, and the flagellum is there for the movement, and make also it has many structure adaptations. But the egg cells, the round cell with few structural adaptations, covered in jelly coating. Motility, of course, the sperm is motile, that is capable to move, and egg cells is not capable to move. And numbers, of course, in one ejaculation, uh, a large number of sperms are released, around 100 million per day. You see, 100 million per day sperms are produced. Now another difference relate to the egg cell, that 1,000 thousands of immature eggs in each ovary, but only one egg release each month. Means one egg release once in a month. Uh, Now see here, this is also you can see the diagram that the sperm, as you know, that it has a head that has a specific part that we call as the acrosomes that secretes some chemical which breaks down the outer covering of the egg. Okay, and then this head of the sperm or the nucleus is inserted into the egg cell. The fertilization take place. And in a sperm cell, you can also see the long whip-like structure is there. This is called as a flagellum, which is responsible for the movement of the sperm cells. So sperm, is motile, and egg cell is sessile or not motile, basically. Now, development of the fetus. What are the different stages of the development of the fetus? You can see firstly the diagram. You can see that the fetus, enveloped in a different layers. Okay, and it is also, um, it is also uh, is it is also found in the specific fluid that we call as amniotic fluid. Now you can see here the umbilical cord allows the exchange of substances between the fetus and the mother, because during the development, the umbilical cord by which the fetus is attached to the mother. Placenta connects the fetus end of the umbilical cord and allows exchange of substances. It allows produces the hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. Amniotic sac that surrounds the fetus and produces amniotic fluid. An amniotic fluid that protects the fetus, because this amniotic fluid just save the mother from the external jolts and external shocks, because this fluid is the shock absorber. Now come to the another thing, that is the antenatal care. What is antenatal care? The care Antenatal care, that before the birth, the care is name given to the care and advice given to the expectant mothers, along with the checks of fetal growth and development. While pregnant, expectant mothers are given advice on what are the advices that regarding the diet, including the need to take folic acids to prevent the developmental issues with the fetus and the importance of a balanced diet. Yes, means the mother should have to take the balanced diet so that there is a formation of different organs and the bony skeleton on the fetus. Exercise to stay fit. Health precautions such as avoiding infections, tobacco, alcohol, and drugs. Now, sex hormone in human. So, two hormones are key to the development of secondary sexual characteristics during puberty and the subsequent regulation of these characteristics. What are these hormones? See, the first one, testosterone, that is produced in the testis of male and a small amount in the ovary of female. It is responsible for muscles development and the deepening of voice, amongst other things. Estrogen is made in the ovary of female. It leads to the development of widened hips, breast, and play a part in the menstrual cycle. Now here we will discuss the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle happens approximately every 28 days. During each cycle, an egg cells is released from the ovary. The uterus wall thickens by filling with blood capillaries in the preparations of the pregnancy, which would occur if the egg is fertilized. If the egg is not fertilized, the egg dies and menstrual cycle occurs, where the dead egg cell and old uterus lining is expelled from the body in the period. Now see the interaction between the R4 of the menstruation cycle hormones. Actually, this menstruation cycle, is controlled by the hormones. Specifically, the four hormones are there. So we have to know that what are the name of these hormones, from where they are secreted, and what is their job. See, the pituitary glands produces FSH, means follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the development of the follicle in the ovary. An egg develops inside the follicles and the follicle produces the hormone estrogens. Estrogens causes growth and repair of the lining of the uterus wall and inhibits the production of FSH, means follicle stimulating hormone. When the estrogen rises to a high enough level, it stimulates the release of LH, means luteinizing hormone, from the pituitary glands, which causes ovulations usually around day 14 of the cycle. The follicle becomes a corpus luteum and starts producing the progesterones. Progesterones maintain the uterus lining, the the thickness of the uterus wall. If the ovum is not fertilized, the corpus luteum breaks down and progesterone's level drops. This causes menstruations where the uterus lining breaks down and is removed through the vagina, commonly known as having a periods. If pregnancy does occur, the corpus luteum continues to produce progesterones, preventing the uterus lining from the breaking down and aborting the pregnancy. It does this until the placenta has developed, at which point it starts secreting the progesterones and continues to do so throughout the pregnancy. So this is, you see here, this is the menstruation cycle, which we have discussed that it is controlled by the different hormones which are released from the different glands, and how they are playing very important role in the breaking down of the wall of the uterus and in the formation of the wall of the uterus. Okay, so you can also see, like, another view of the menstruation cycle and what is the role of this hormone. See, pituitary gland, that is, found below the hypothalamus. This pituitary gland secretes two hormone, FSH and LH, luteinizing hormone. And the other hormone is released by the ovary, especially in estrogens and progesterones. Uh, okay, and another, the uterus, that estrogens and progesterones stimulates the development and the maintenance of the lining of the uterus. So these hormone, estrogens and progesterone, that stimulate the development and maintenance of the lining of the uterus wall. Now, this is, I think, the last topic is there. This is a sexually transmitted disease. Sexually transmitted disease infection known as STI, sexually transmitted infections, are infections that are transmitted via bodily fluid. Bodily fluid means it's blood or semen. Okay, during sexual intercourse or contact. The spread of STIs can be controlled by abstaining from sexual contact, avoiding risky sexual practices, and always using protections such as condom. So these are the safety precautions. Okay, and then now, for example, there are so many, sexual transmitted diseases, but the disease which are given in our syllabus, in IGCSE syllabus, is HIV. HIV, stand for human immunodeficiency virus, is an example of the STI. HIV is present in the bodily fluid of infected people, such as blood and semen, and can be transmitted during the sexual intercourse. In the blood, HIV attaches to the lymphocytes, white blood cells, and enters the cells. Here it uses the cells to replicate itself, and thus the cell cannot carry out its normal function. What this virus do? Actually, this virus, attach with the lymphocytes, okay, and then the number of lymphocytes is reduced. And the lymphocytes are very important cell, because these are the cell which make antibodies. Okay, so if the number of lymphocyte is reduced, so of course the immune system of the person is going to be weaker, and the person is going to have so many infections. So, and the condition in which the person is going to have so many infections, okay, and so many pathogens just invading on the person. So this condition is named as AIDS, AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, because syndrome means the collection of infections. Okay, and this HIV leads to the AIDS, which makes the person extremely susceptible to other pathogen, as the white blood cells can no longer fight off disease, which can be fatal. As you can see also in the diagram that how, like, this infection proceeds. Okay, number one, you can see the HIV attaches to the receptors on the lymphocytes, and then the HIV infects its genetic materials into the lymphocyte, with which becomes a host cell. Then HIV uses the lymphocyte's cellular machinery to make copies of itself. Means when, like, the virus enters into the cell, so it just make its DNA. Okay, means it's the DNA of virus ordered the DNA of a human cell, specifically lymphocytes, to make its DNA. When so many DNAs are made, then it gives another order to make its capsid. When so many capsid are made, then they are combined and a full virus is made. And after some time, the lymphocyte burst. And when the lymphocyte burst, then you can see here in the last step, so many viruses are coming out from one lymphocytes. And these viruses again invade on the other lymphocytes. In this way, so many lymphocytes are expired. Okay, and the reduction of the lymphocytes mean the reduction of the immunity, and reduction of the immunity means there is an invasion of even the weaker germs, and the person is going to have so many infections and is going to die just because of so many infection, because it cannot be managed. So this is about the sexually transmitted disease, and this is the last topic, last subtopics for topic reproduction. Now, if you have any problem, any questions, okay, so my WhatsApp number is there. Okay, my email address is there, my YouTube channel. Okay, and this video is also available on the TikTok. So if you want to give any comments, if you have any confusion, you can ask me over there. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.